Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to work on the VJ in the garage, and we're going to rebuild the brake calipers with this kit. This is a pretty straightforward work. You're changing an O-ring in the caliper and you're changing the boot of the caliper. The first thing you need to do is to jack up the car and take off the wheel and the brake. To do this, you need to take the caliper up completely, even on the brake hose connector. And start by removing the rubber booth on the backside. To untight this, you need a T45. So I'm going to loosen the bolt to the brake hose already now, just a little bit, because it's easier to break that off when everything is tight. Now when the hose back here is loose and the containing bolts for the caliper, you could start to unscrew the caliper and take it off. Remove the clip that holds the caliper in place. I'm going to reuse this, so do it in a non-destructive way. This part here has to come off, and an easy way to do this is to go into the car and push the brake pedal, and this one will start to come out. Be cautious when you're doing this, because if you have it here, like I do, you don't want it to pop off, because then you will get all the oil on your caliper. As you can see now, this part of the caliper is already out, and it came out from the braking, and I think I could pull it out by hand for the rest of the part. So this is where I'm going to leave it now, and now I'm going to disconnect the brake hose back here. And this is where it's getting easier, because I've already broken this off. So from now on, I could do it by hand. And this is where it's going to be a little bit messy. So have something like a cardboard or something underneath. And there is a washer here that is needed. So don't lose this washer. Now I'm going to take it off and hold it upwards. And I'm going to take a zip tie and attach this upwards around the spring. And it's time to get all the oil out. I recommend you to have some sort of drain pan, because this is going to be messy. And I think from now on I should be able to pull this out by hand. And you see there's a lot of oil coming out. I had a look on this boot, and it seems like this one attached on the outside on towards the calipers. So I'm going to take this picker and try to pick a groove that will make it easier for me to get it out. The screwdriver in here, that makes it easier. Make sure that you get this metal ring with you, because in other brake caliper designs that could be stuck there, so make sure you get everything off. And in here there's an O-ring as well that has to come out like this. We're gonna this is the two parts we're gonna replace, but now we're gonna clean everything off, and I'm gonna see if I could remove these plastic booths as well. Okay, I'm about to remove this plastic here. I'm gonna reuse this, so I'm gonna do this very carefully, not breaking them, or at least try to. The best way would of course be to replace this as well, but I didn't order that replacement part, so that's it. You go from the inside like this, push the edge down, and then it will come out sooner or later. That's it. So the reason why I wanted to remove this is, well, first of all, I want to clean them as good as I can, and secondly, I want to use a steel brush in all this area to get all the rust and dirt off. And last step, I'm gonna remove the bleed port, but start by removing the rubber booth for the bleed port. It's a 3/8. This is stuck pretty hard. Okay, I'm gonna use some penetrating oil. And I'm also gonna put some penetrating oil on the inside of it, because there is a little hole inside where that one threads. Okay, so it's off. Okay, first step now is to brush everything off with a wire brush. Now it's time to clean it with the machine. We start by using the wire brush like this from the top. I work myself around with different size of wire brushes to get into all the spaces around here. Now I'm going to clean the holes on here with this wire brush. I'm doing this from the both sides. I'm going to brush off this area where the bleed port is. I got the caliper cleaned in a way that I'm satisfied with. The next step, the next part to pay attention to is this piston. It's a plastic piston, and there is an upgrade you could do while you're doing this. You could replace this into a steel piston, which is much better, because this plastic piston, they tends to swallow up a little bit when the brake gets hot, and they create a lot of problem for your brake. And you should be able to slide this piston down here quite easily. But as you can see, this one is kind of getting stuck, and that's not a good thing, because that's gonna give you a problem down the road. So what I'm gonna do is to take this off again, and then I'm gonna take some nice sanding paper, and I'm gonna sand this down a little bit. I'm gonna take a sanding paper, in this case a P180. I think you should probably not go rougher than this. This is what I got at home, so this is what I'm gonna use. And when you're sanding this one down, you want to sand this area specifically. You don't need to sand this part, because the booth that goes around this hooks down in here, so this part will always be outside, so it's just this part that is important to get down. And I'm gonna attach my vise in the outer part like this. Very lightly. And now I could work around with the sanding paper in this way. When you've done this, clean it off and try to put it back in your caliper. When you're done with the sanding and when you have cleaned the piston, try to fit it in your caliper once again. And it should go down pretty easy. It goes down further this time, but it's still making some resistance at the very top. So I'm gonna try to sand it a little bit on this part specifically and try one more time. So I folded my sanding paper in the middle, and I'm gonna try to get it more on the inside. I think since it's a little bit thicker where it folds, it's gonna take slightly more on the inside. I must say I'm really looking forward to hear what you're gonna say about this in the comments. But this has been working out good for me. And if you don't want to do this with your caliper, then you don't have to, of course. Okay, so we start to getting there. I'm just gonna check as well how deep it actually is, so I don't try to achieve something that is not possible. It's like this deep, which means it goes all the way down. So I want it to be able to slide all the way down and up easily like this. Now we're kind of getting there. I'm gonna give it one more go. So here comes the final test with the piston. And you see it goes down easily and it goes up just as easy. But you should be aware that there should be a little resistance in it. So it should not slide in and out too easy. I think a good way is to be able to hold it upside down without it falling out. If it falls out, you probably overdid it. Before we continue reassemble the brake caliper, I have to tell you about this product. It's a grease that works really, really good with brakes. It mixes with the dot fluid, and you could use it on the O-rings, you could use it on the pistons and all parts in order to get them to fit better. And I also used them on the pistons that holds the caliper in place on the bracket on the car, and I never had any problems with sticky brakes since I started to use this. So it's a really good product. Sometimes it's difficult to find, but most of the things are available on Amazon, eBay and stuff like that. If I find it, I will link it in the description. So it's time to reassemble everything, and I'm gonna start with these ones that goes in here, and I clean them up really so they look really nice now. And I start by putting some grease on the outside of it. That will make it slide better when it goes in. Give it some clean. Now I'm going to take the O-ring that goes into the caliper, and I'm going to put some grease on that one as well. And I'm going to bend it like this and try to get it in the groove. Put some grease there. Now I'm going to take the piston and take the boot first and put some grease on this one. I'm going to take some grease on the piston. And take the booth and attach on the piston like this, and give it a little clean on the outside and push it in like this. Now I will push this down as straight as I can. There is some resistance here now because we have the O-ring. That's it, all the way in the bottom. And now this booth has to go up here somehow. So the way to get this booth on is basically just to push it down like this and move all the way around. And this is really tricky because when you push it down, it tends to go up on the other side. So, but a lot of patience should get it on there. But I can't really say this is a design that I think is very good. But that's how it is. There's no groove or anything that holds this in its place. I remember doing this on the XCA brake, and on those brakes, this groove actually goes down into the caliper. So make sure that this edge all the way around is really, really snug on the caliper all the way around. I think I got it on in a good way now. And now this is kind of complete. Got a new booth. This got cleaned off. Last step will be to reinstall this. And I'm of course also going to clean up these pistons. I normally keep this pretty clean.
Okay, heads up. The piston I just put on, it's upside down on this frame.
It's time to reinstall the caliper now. And keep in mind that the bolt that holds down the brake hose has two washers. One of those goes directly on the caliper and the other one goes in between the attachment from the brake hose like this. So one washer on each side. Installing this is pretty much the same way as you took it off. First, I'm starting to put some grease on these metal pistons and I put it back in and I slide them forward a little bit. I take the brake pad and put it in position. And I take the other brake pad and put it on the brake rotor. Then I put my caliper on like this. Tighten it with the T45. And make sure that the caliper moves as it's supposed to do. It's time to reinstall the spring detainer. Put some grease on the pins.
Reinstall the brake hose on the caliper with one washer on the outside and one on the inside.
Don't forget to put back the end cap, and I prefer to fill this up with some grease and also take some grease and put into the bolts that holds on the caliper and allow the caliper to slide. Now when everything is bolted up, it's time to bleed the brake. This is at the point where this video is starting to get pretty long, so I'm gonna break it here. When you reach this point, the final step is to bleed your brake and get all the air out of the system. I think I'm gonna do a video about that later on when I'm doing the brake on the other side of the car. But for the moment, I just have to refer you to search on YouTube to find that information. That is how I find information on how to do stuffs. And I hope this video will be helpful for you. And I see you soon, and thanks for watching.